My bad. Relax. My great uncle was the Secretary of the Army for Eisenhower. There, I gave myself out.
My extended family is the Bush family. So we have in our whole family and in my side, let's see, 3 former presidents and 3 former governors in our family is what we've got. I know Donald Trump, and people were talking about, oh, the media, this or that or whatever. My former brother-in-law, because he has passed away, but he was the CEO of NBC.
Surely everyone has access to 5.56 ammo.
By 77 grain? No, they do not. That's called a NATO round. They do not have access to that. A 223 by 77 grain, everyone does not have access to that round.
I just searched by 7.7 grain NATO round 5.56.
Yep.
I am seeing results. Are you saying those are different, or that I couldn't buy those or something?
I'm saying you can buy them, but
they give it a name, television, because it's tell-a-vision. Tell a lie. You know, if you want to tell a lie, whatever you want to tell the people, you tell it.
What is the evidence that whoever exactly you're suggesting is behind the assassination attempt?
No, I mean, I just know what's going on. I hear when you live in a family surrounded by people like that, you know.
I see.
It's like being, you know, I'm not sitting in some creepy little apartment somewhere not knowing anybody or anything.
Hello, welcome. Silly Goober 39 joined. Welcome, you silly goober. The topic of this live stream is that I think BlackRock is not involved with the recent Trump assassination. BlackRock not involved with the Trump assassination. If you think differently, then I'd love to have a guest come on and defend the idea that BlackRock was involved with the Trump assassination. I'd love to talk through that. I think BlackRock was not involved with the Trump assassination. And I appreciate you liking the live. Thank you. That's very useful. That's helpful. It will help drive the live to more people. In fact, I wonder if I can like it. Maybe I can. I liked it. I liked my own live. Oh, we've got a guest request.
Hey, how's it going?
Hello, I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, pretty good.
Good. I that BlackRock was not involved with the Trump assassination. Do you think differently?
I do think differently. I was watching your, well, not entirely. I don't believe BlackRock was involved, but I was watching your live earlier, and there was one thing I wanted to add. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to come up as a guest then. Had Trump been assassinated before the RNC convention, the rules for getting another Republican nominee would have been much more difficult.
Yeah, I guess I'm not familiar with what those rules are, but I believe that is probably true.
They would have had to go back to all the states and re-hold primaries to be able to have another Republican candidate. Whereas if the assassination was to happen now after the
convention,
after the RNC convention, all they have to do is just say, well, there was an unfortunate event, but we can just select a new candidate and keep going.
Yeah, I mean that seems right to me. I think it would definitely be bad for the Republican Party if Trump were assassinated. But does that, is that evidence of BlackRock or someone like BlackRock being involved?
No, I just think that it adds to the questions that air around everything as to why was it that exact time that there chose to be an attempt.
Yeah, fair. I think it would have been a bad time, although I think even just after the nomination would also be very bad for the party.
Agreed. It just would be almost impossible to get another candidate nominated in time had it been a successful attempt because of everything that they would have had to go through to get another candidate legally before the RNC.
I think, I don't know the RNC rules, but I'm willing to accept that that's probably true. That sounds believable to me. So yeah, I guess I agree with that point, but I don't think it points to any specific suspect.
No, I don't. I would love to be an investigator on the case, but unfortunately, I don't have that capability. So, we're at the mercy of what we hear from the media.
If anyone in the audience is in charge of the FBI, you can put me and C2B on as investigators. we'll get to the bottom of it. Yeah. Okay. Well, it sounds like we don't disagree that much, but thanks for contributing that point. Yep.
I love your channel.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. All right. So the subject of the live stream is, I think Blackrock was not involved with the Trump assassination. If you think differently, please come up and we can discuss the nature of our disagreement. We have our next guest. Hello, welcome.
Hey, quick thoughts. First off, really love your channel. Love the stuff that you do, especially the programming stuff. I'm not a programmer, but when you were doing that, I thought it was super fascinating. I really loved it. So in regards to what you were talking about for BlackRock, and really when it comes to any type of conspiracy theory, any conspiracy theory, I really think about the Occam's razor kind of philosophy of usually the simplest answer being, or the simplest explanation is being the most relevant into what it happens. Of course, it doesn't apply to everything, but I just think it's a general mind frame a good mind frame to have to kind of escape that conspiracy theory and that automatic thing. I don't know much about BlackRock. I know what it is. And I know that if it is some shadow, malignant, crazy Illuminati, type deal, like some make it out to be, I'm pretty sure they would do better than a 20-year-old with an AR-15 trying to assassinate a political opponent. So it just doesn't line up. I don't know much more about BlackRock, but I do know enough to that it just doesn't make that much sense to me.
I agree with you. I think, one, they stand to lose much more than they stand to gain. Yeah. And two, like you say, if they were this shadowy, elite cabal running the world, they could probably get a better assassin. So yeah, I think we're in agreement there. And yeah, I think the simplest explanation in this case is probably that the Secret Service had some, fundamental failures or lapses, dropped the ball, plus.
Agreed.
Okay. Well, yeah, it sounds like we're on the same page. So
yeah. Oh yeah. Totally. Thank you for the opportunity. I'd love to see more of your content. Keep it up.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thanks for watching. I appreciate that. Have a good day. All right. Good call. Good call. But we are looking for disagreement. I think BlackRock was not involved with the Trump assassination. If you think differently, you can send me a guest request. I'm more than happy to add you and we can discuss the nature of our disagreement. So we have another caller.
Hey.
Hello. Are you driving?
Hey, give me 1 second. I'm going in my car.
Okay.
Not as quiet. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you? I think BlackRock was not involved with the Trump assassination. Do you think differently?
Yeah. My only see when you talk about conspiracies, the powers that be, I believe leave hints. They'll never leave a checkmate statement or evidence. I believe, Freemasons, for example, they believe in symbolism. They believe if you show what you're gonna do, then it makes it morally right. And the only sort of hint that BlackRock was involved that's not concrete is the AGR building being eventually somewhat to do with BlackRock through mutual funds and investment groups. And obviously the commercial, very suspicious, he was in it, but nothing concrete, just a hint.
Yeah, and I guess about the idea that, these kind of cabals have to give a hint. I would say, to me, I think that's kind of an answer to an accusation of conspiratorial thinking, in the sense that if you were to say, the elite shadowy cabal is giving us a hint of what they're going to do, a critic might say, well, why would they do that? And so then if you I don't want to say that you specifically, but if someone invents the rule that the elite, evil guys have to give hints, have to give vague hints, it just kind of justifies conspiratorial thinking. I agree there's not concrete evidence, and that's really the kind of evidence that I think should guide our opinions. You mentioned the commercial. I don't think, maybe that's an example of a hint, but it's not really an example of concrete evidence. It's not like BlackRock would hire assassins from the cast of their commercials.
Yeah, and the only concrete evidence that is not concrete, but the biggest red flag in my opinion is the how Chase and BlackRock, I forgot the exact number, the rebuild project in Ukraine, I think it's like $1 trillion or 500 billion, I'm not exactly sure, but
Yeah.
it would make sense on paper, or just, guessing that, oh, if this guy Trump comes into office and makes a peace between Ukraine, it would have something to do with that deal. That's the only monetary thing I could see, but I'm not, there's nothing for sure, but it would make sense if that was the case.
Yeah, I could see that as a plausible motive if there exists some contract that says, BlackRock or BlackRock affiliated companies will get $1 trillion unless, and like Trump's election would block that. I don't think that is necessarily true, though. Like, I don't see why Trump being elected would void whatever contracts may exist. I don't, like, even if Trump immediately brought peace to Ukraine, then we could expect the rebuilding in Ukraine to start. Like, if he stopped the Russian war immediately, then, okay, Ukraine still needs to rebuild all of the destroyed stuff. There's still a lot of money to be made there, and there's potentially even more money to be made rebuilding the country. And like, it brings Russia back. We could stop sanctioning Russia. Russia could sell oil. We could sell products to Russia again. So like, you're right that BlackRock affiliated companies might make money through the war, but they would also make money through peace. And so it just doesn't seem reasonable to me to think that, it would be like an existential threat to their company. Are they going to take like an existential risk of trying to assassinate a president for something that, like, they'll be fine either way? They'll be fine if Trump is elected. They'll be fine if there's war in Ukraine or peace in Ukraine. That's my view.
Yeah, but my only opinion, the problem with that, it makes sense. There's more money and peace, but the issue is, in my opinion, 20 years ago when 9/11 happened, I think everyone can agree that Bush lied about Iraq and weapons of mass destruction, and that I don't see what changed from that today with that same lying in our government. But this is very interesting, though. I want you to look this up. I haven't done it fully, but there's this investment group called Austin Investment. Yeah. You heard about that one? How they betted on the short of truth.gov with like $11 million?
Yeah, I am familiar with that. So like on your previous, I'll address that in 1 second, but just on your previous point, I think it is like a good thing to point out, like, yeah, it does seem like George Bush lied to get us into like the Iraq war, and that is strange. That's something, we should think about. So like, that's a fair point. On Austin Financial Group, it's reported that Austin Financial Group had a 12 million share short position against Truth Social. And that's based on their 13F filing that they filed on the 12th, the day before the assassination attempt. And what that company says is that it was a filing error. It's a filing error with the SEC where they filed the 13F form. So periodically, every couple months, they're required to disclose the positions they hold in their 13F form. And they say that they filled out that form incorrectly and like multiplied the size of all of their options by 10,000. So if that's true, then I think there's no, like that's not really suspicious if they just made an error. If it's not true, if they actually did have a huge short position, then I would agree with you, that's suspicious. And I think like that's something for the FBI to investigate. That's something to go look at, go talk to their brokerage account and see, did they actually have these options contracts or not?
Yeah, and the information I got is that I'm not sure, I got to look into it more, but is that the Bush family is actually involved in that group. And that would make it even more suspicious if that's true. But I'm more conspiracy kind of guy. I don't believe in mistakes like that because they always kind of cover their trail with many examples like that. Because that's one hell of a mistake with a coincidence of the event that happened.
Yes, that's true. But you have to consider that any company like could have made that mistake. So like you had no prior suspicion of Austin Financial Group, I assume. So all we know is that one company out of however many thousands are of that size, or 1,000 are of that size, all we know is that one company made that mistake at, you're right, an especially inconvenient time, which is why I think like that is suspicious. We should look at it. But would you agree that if it's just an error in their form filing, it's just an error in their reporting where they say, we have this position, but it's not actually the case that they had that position? Would you agree then that it's not suspicious?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's kind of like it wouldn't be if it was, dictionary proof, but if you believe in, in any chance of truly evil rich people controlling the world, that they can cover their tracks like that. And it's very easy just for them to pivot and say, oh, it was a mistake. And then they can make their own evidence to prove it.
Like the issue with that is that the options have a counterparty. So like you're not betting against nothing. Like you're betting against another person who, like if you're selling the put, someone else is buying it. Or if you're buying the put, someone else is selling it. So there's an other side to that contract, which is also basically guaranteed to be a rich person. So if you thought they actually had an options contract that they were just backing out of with like, sorry, that was a mistake, then you would have to think that there's some other rich person who's basically like shrugging off a loss of, millions of dollars or billions of dollars or whatever it would be.
Yeah, definitely. That actually makes sense. That actually makes sense. Well, one thing I wanted to ask you before I left.
Yeah.
Did you watch the Brandon Biggs prediction?
No, I didn't. Who is that? Brandon
This
Biggs?
is very interesting. So I'm a little religious, not too. So I've never listened to priests on their prophecies, but this guy's video is picking up a lot of attention. He predicted essentially Trump's ear being shot in an assassination attempt 4 months ago before the event happened. I thought that was very, very crazy because I'd never seen someone predict something like that with that much accuracy.
And I saw Trump rising up, and then I saw an attempt on his life. This bullet flew by his ear, and it came so close to his head that it busted his eardrum. And I saw he fell to his knees during this time frame, and he started worshiping the Lord. He got radically born again during this time frame. I'm talking. People say he's saved now, but he becomes really on fire for Jesus for what I saw coming.
Yeah, actually, now that you reveal a little bit of it, I may have heard of this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't he predict that like Trump's eardrum would burst?
Yeah, he said kind of word for word, I had a vision on attempt of assassination on Trump, and I saw the bullet go by his ear and burst his eardrum. And then, yeah, if you go to the video, it's at the 11-minute marker, if you can find it. I don't remember the title. It's on YouTube.
Yeah, I'll look for it.
Yeah, I think it's on like 1.8 million views. When I saw it, it was probably 4 hours after the Trump assassination. It had like 100,000 views, but a lot of steam, and it's super interesting because no one usually believes those prophecy-seeking or saying vision people, but he has some other predictions, so you should look and see, probably watch some and see if it comes true, because holy crap if it's true.
Yeah, I'll watch it. I think at least to me, I haven't seen this video, I've just heard about it, but it is a little bit odd that his prediction isn't quite right. I don't know what to make of it. It's certainly a strange thing to predict, as accurately as he did, but it's also worth keeping in mind that like Trump's eardrum didn't burst. It's not exactly the same as his prediction. But I'll definitely look at that.
I think when he was yapping a lot in the video, so I don't think he intentionally meant like specifically eardrum. Because when you watch him say it, he's kind of like he kind of choked up a little bit. So I don't think he exactly meant eardrum. I think he used the first word that came to his mind. But yeah, look it up, brother. It's fucking crazy. I lost my mind when I saw it. I was like, that's really weird.
Yeah, I'll look it up. And I think you have like a smart idea to consider his other predictions and judge how accurate they are going forward. I don't know anything about this guy in particular, but oftentimes with people who predict the future, they'll make a lot of predictions that are, maybe not always 100% precise. And then if something like that comes true, then they seem to gain credibility. But yeah, I'll definitely look at that, and I appreciate the recommendation. Thanks for coming up.
And no problem, brother. You take care.
Yeah, you too. Have a nice day. All right, the topic of the live stream. I think that BlackRock was not involved with the Trump assassination. If you think differently, then please go ahead and send me a guest request. I'd love to have you up and we can talk about it. Our next guest, Silly Goober, who I think was also the first person to join this live stream. Hello, welcome.
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can.
Well, BlackRock could have hidden the assassin in plain sight by doing what they did. And thereby, the absurdity of the situation could have made BlackRock not responsible for the assassination of Trump. And they do have a vested interest in seeing Trump gone. Because, as it was said before...
Sorry, 1 second before we get to their interest. I agree they could have been involved, but surely we need something more than could have been involved. You could have been involved.
To an extent, yeah, I agree, but they do have a vested interest. Don't you agree?
What is their interest?
That Trump would have stopped the war in Ukraine, which means end the Green Deal. That's a lot of money. Also, the Republican Party is against the ESG policy, which and the DEI, which also BlackRock advocates for, which contradicts Republican values to an extent.
Yeah. So, do you think that BlackRock really genuinely cares about the ESG stuff?
Not really, but it's a lot of money, $1 trillion.
Well, I guess I don't see that they would lose $1 trillion if Trump got elected. I guess what I was getting at with do you think they really care about the ESG stuff is, to me, my perception is that BlackRock wants to make money, and what would be good for them is anything that's good for the U.S. public markets. They have, diversified holdings across the U.S. public markets. So it'd be good for them if the stock market generally went up. And you're right that some companies right now make money through the war in Ukraine, but also in a future peace, some companies would make money, rebuilding Ukraine and investing in Ukraine or doing business in Russia or things like that, or Belarus. But
will Ukraine exist after the war? That's a big concern.
Yeah, that is a concern, but wouldn't it be bad for BlackRock if it did not exist?
It would, yeah, but Russia has minimal trade with the US. Even before the war, they were not trading as much. So the only difference would be the oil exports to the European Union, not to the US.
I'm not sure if I can. I'm not sure if I know that, or well, I mean,
Yes.
maybe that is true. I don't know that, but what does that have to do with the question? What would you expect the stock market to do if Trump was elected? Would it go down?
Well, I don't think we can follow the previous blueprint of 2016 because there are many. I feel like Trump is more predictable in his foreign policy, so that could impact markets.
I think, to me, it seems like you're saying, Trump could impact markets. I agree that's possible.
Violently even.
I don't know that we know the extent to which he would impact markets. I don't know if we know the extent to which it would be good or bad for BlackRock.
He did say something about Taiwan, and I think the stock of TMSC dropped.
That's true. You're talking about yesterday, TSMC dropped?
I think so, yeah. Also, not defending Europe and pulling out of NATO.
Removed part of their platform to defend Taiwan. But the point I'm trying to get at is that for BlackRock to attempt to assassinate the president, that would be taking an existential risk for their company. If it ever came to light, we would have to put them out of business, put the executives responsible in jail. That's an existential risk for their company to try to assassinate the president.
Of course it is, but
it's not really an existential risk to say, we're very diversified, we're very rich, we're going to be rich if Trump wins, we're going to be rich if Biden wins. Like, that, it would be crazy to take that kind of risk for, you're going to win either way, you're going to be rich either way, you'll be fine.
Well, some Republicans are also calling in the Republican Party to take homes away from BlackRock. I don't know if that's an official stance of Donald Trump, but that could definitely hurt them in the long run too.
Maybe. I don't, like, homes are
not existentially.
Real estate is not a significant part of their portfolio, to my knowledge.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's very overblown. It's like a TikTok meme that BlackRock and similar own a lot of single-family houses. It's a very, very small share of single-family houses in the U.S. that are owned by institutional investors. Even the idea that, okay, we're going to limit institutional investors to a certain number of owning a certain number of houses, like, that's not where most of BlackRock's money is anyway.
Yeah, that might be a populist trick that they made in the RNC.
Yeah, and I think it's like, even if it were true, it's not good enough to say, like, they may have a motive. So, like, I think the motives that you've kind of suggested here are not that compelling. But even if they were a motive, even if BlackRock thought Republicans getting elected would be bad for them, it's not really enough to have a motive. Plenty of groups have a motive. I could point to, like, an accelerationist, kind of like white supremacist group who thought that Trump getting assassinated would start a kind of civil war and now they can fight and whatever. Like, okay, maybe that's a motive I can articulate, but it doesn't, that doesn't.
Yeah, civil war would not be good for BlackRock, that's for sure. That's the big. Well, furthermore, Trump also said that he wants 10% tariff, at least 10% tariff, and even more, and scrap the income tax. That would be very bad for BlackRock's international businesses too. Might even be like ending to the company, like life-threatening to the company.
I don't know that it would be ending to the company. I don't know that it would be, like, one, I doubt that would happen. And two, like, I don't think it's an existential risk to the company. And then three, even if it were an existential risk to the company, like I was just saying, it's not enough to say, like, well, here's a possible motive. What is the evidence that BlackRock is involved?
Well, we don't have any concrete evidence right now. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried to make an argument from that point of view, but yeah, I don't want to put my tinfoil hat on.
Okay.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for coming on. I think we agree there's not concrete evidence right now, but investigation should continue and should follow wherever they lead.
Thank you. Great content on the stats.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good day. Oh, I think you were saying you too. I accidentally disconnected him early. But good call, good call. The subject of this live stream is, I think BlackRock was not involved with the Trump assassination. If you think differently, I'd love to have you on and we can discuss our next guest.
Yeah, hey, how you doing? I think I believe that they definitely had a lot of incentives for this to occur, especially because, obviously what we saw with what was happening in the market activity prior. But not just that, it's also important to remember that BlackRock focused this child in one of their commercials because they had an investment in that school that he went to. Not only did BlackRock invest in that school that he went into, remember that quote unquote shooter club that the kid was rejected out of? That was also funded by BlackRock because it was a school activity. So all of these things, if you put them together, it's too much of a coincidence. The rifle that he used was a BlackRock rifle that the shooting club was using. That's where the kid got his formal training from when it comes to range finding and everything that he knew. And I don't care what people say.
Hang on 1 second. Let me interrupt you. When you say that BlackRock funded the school, could you say more about that?
Yes, please look up the commercial. Just find the commercial, and they tell you right there on the commercial how BlackRock funded, in particular, that school and community.
Okay, I'll look that up.
Please do. Yeah, it's very interesting.
BlackRock commercial funded school. How does that?
No, funded the Trump SHOOTER school. Make sure you put that in there so you get the right commercial.
Okay. how does that, like, I guess I'm trying to imagine the situation where, BlackRock decides they need to assassinate Trump. And so they say, like, give me the extra from one of our commercials. Like,
oh no, it's all about grooming. This is these are government programs that have been like researched. Like, have you ever looked into MK Ultra and sleeper cells and how they actually have done this to human beings? The CIA has come out. Well, one of the CIA members has come out and actually done active YouTubes about how they indoctrinate people. Well, corporate America is no different than the government. They would still use the same studies and the same tactics to do this. And that's perfect because they would have found their perfect candidate of the quote unquote lone wolf shooter. I mean, this is nothing more than, just a continuation of what the government's doing in the private sector.
So
you don't think BlackRock assassinates people in other countries?
I would be surprised to learn that.
You would be, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, would you be surprised to find out that BlackRock's responsible for the slavery that's occurring right now in Nigeria? Well, when it comes to lithium and nickel mines, do you know that there was a lot of political assassinations that occurred when those there was lawmakers that tried to stand up against BlackRock against these laws that would have essentially ended the profiteering that was happening by BlackRock?
To my knowledge, BlackRock is not directly involved with that. Like, BlackRock may invest in companies that are involved with that. Is that what you're saying?
So you're saying that they have billions of dollars, but they just invest their money. They're not active in any of these fields or markets. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, BlackRock's largest funds are passive investments.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it passive.
Yeah.
When you have trillions of dollars wrapped up in the market, I don't think that's passive. I believe that you're going to have a lot of hand in what's happening in geopolitics.
So if that were true, you would expect to see evidence of that. By which I mean, like, okay, you own 9% of a company. How do you get them to do what you want?
Well, you tell me.
Well, it's not. I mean, how I would say is, I would say, I want a seat on the board. I want to, talk with the CEO, and when they refused, then I would expect, activist investing to try to buy more of that company.
These people move money around and manipulate markets.
Well,
right?
Okay,
These people move money around,
well,
and especially when there's activity that's happening.
What I was getting to is that I would expect to see evidence of BlackRock basically displacing CEOs at a certain point, or doing some kind of activist investing to get seats on the board of directors, et cetera. I haven't looked into it too thoroughly, but I don't know of any evidence of BlackRock doing stuff like that. To my knowledge, they are a passively managed index fund, mostly, meaning individuals and organizations put money into BlackRock. BlackRock buys, equal shares of all the publicly traded companies, and now they're diversified.
That's all. And then there's no evidence in front of you for that, so none of these occur in the background, right? Like, BlackRock's completely innocent. They don't actually go ahead and lobby for wars or lobby for any type of activity they might profit them more, right? Because there's no evidence in front of you.
Activity is,
if there's no evidence in front of you, then it's not happening, obviously, right?
Well, if I don't,
technocracy isn't falling into place through these laws and legislations that are pushed by these people.
If I don't have evidence of something, then I don't assume it is happening.
Then you're an idiot.
Maybe.
I hate to say it, but then you're an idiot. I mean, you have to have some reason and common sense here and actually follow the money and follow what's happening. Like, if you don't think that BlackRock's been involved, if you don't think that BlackRock's been involved in multiple incidents internationally when it comes to, like I said, like I mentioned, in Nigeria, who would have done that? Why would the public in Nigeria have tried to assassinate their own cabinet members?
Like, you're kind of avoiding the central issue about Trump, about BlackRock being involved in the Trump assassination.
I laid it out. I mean, there's definitely a commercial out there that shows that BlackRock was actually actively involved, and then they hedged the money against Trump. Obviously, there's something going on here. And if you think that world control and domination happens through chance and investing, then you, my friend, are an idiot, and you're going to get rolled up into this.
I think you're kind of mistaking a passively managed index fund for like a.
That's all it is. It's just a passively managed index fund that pushes DEI throughout every continent. That's all it is. It's just
Repeating the thing I just said is not really an
this is the
argument.
passively managed fund that said that they're going to control the way every human being on the world acts and interacts with each other, and pushes DI policies into every corner of the world. You will participate in DEI. You will participate in these woke policies, or you will not be allowed to survive. I don't think so, pal. Go on somewhere else, get your nice check from Blackrock and tell them to suck my cock afterwards, okay? I don't think so. And the world knows, and America knows. That's why there's a huge political swing against these types of organizations and people. Thank you. Goodbye.
Okay, thanks for the call. Got a little bit heated there. I think, I think basically, like I said to the previous caller, if you don't have evidence for something, you can't assume it's happening. And so, like, it wouldn't surprise me to learn that there's some kind of issue in Nigeria. I'm not familiar with what the caller was describing. And it also wouldn't surprise me to learn that BlackRock is connected to whatever company is doing that, issue in Nigeria, whatever it is that's happening. But I don't think that means that BlackRock is part of a cabal to control the world or that they have a hand in everything and so on. I'm open to, changing my mind if you have evidence that BlackRock was involved, but I would need to see evidence that BlackRock is actually involved and not just, well, BlackRock is, involved in a lot of stuff around the world, or BlackRock, they aren't a passively managed index fund. To my knowledge, they are a passively managed index fund. So we'll go on to our next caller. Hello, welcome. I think BlackRock was involved with the Trump assassination. Do you think differently?
I do kind of, because just of the fact that, the shooter was in a commercial. BlackRock is the parent company of the company that owns the building.
Yeah.
Just those two facts, and the fact that BlackRock is making a lot of money off of Biden's presidency. And, they also would make money off of Trump, but not nearly as much as they make off of Biden. Because of wars and shit. I genuinely believe that BlackRock wars.
Yeah, I'm going to start forgetting if you go more than 3 points. So just like on the first point, the kid was in the commercial. I agree that's unusual, but I don't really understand what that's supposed to mean. Like, I don't think it's like BlackRock decides they're going to assassinate Trump, so they say, get me the extra in our commercial. Like, that doesn't make sense. Okay, he was an extra in a commercial. Okay. I don't think that's where they would hire their assassins. The second point, BlackRock.
They deleted the commercial.
What'd you say? Okay, the second point that BlackRock.
They deleted their commercial right after.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a bad look, but like, being an extra in a commercial does not make you an assassin. Or there's no reason to think that BlackRock would hire assassins from the group of people who are extras in their commercial. You mentioned BlackRock owning that building. BlackRock had a 9% stake in the company that owned that building. So that's not that unusual, because BlackRock has large stakes in all or most big publicly traded companies. So the fact that a big building is owned by a publicly traded company, which in turn is partially owned by BlackRock, that's not really a coincidence. And even if it was, again, it's kind of like the so what from the Trump or from the commercial thing. Like, assassins aren't limited to climbing on buildings that their employer owns. So it just doesn't matter if BlackRock owned that building or not. Like, the assassin could have climbed on a building if BlackRock did or did not own it, equally as easily. And then, like, the third point, you were saying that they stand to make a lot more money if if Biden is president. I would be skeptical of that. I doubt Trump would agree with that. I doubt that they would really know that for sure. And I don't think it would be like an existential risk. So it is an existential risk to gamble the company on being able to assassinate the president. The company would surely be put out of business. The executives would go to jail if that came to light. It's not really an existential risk to say Trump would be elected president. Probably they would be, rich businessmen either way.
Okay. So do you think of any, what do you think of the shooting then? Like, do you genuinely believe it was just some kid trying to kill the president, or do you think there's someone else behind it?
So I think there are massive Secret Service failures, and I understand the the thought that there must be some kind of like malice or motivation behind it. Like it's hard to accept that, it's just incompetence, or like it's just a failure. So I understand that thought. I would say I think the most plausible theory at the moment is lone gunman plus Secret Service incompetence. But I think, it should be thoroughly investigated, and we should follow I mean the investigators doing the investigation, should follow the evidence wherever it lies. I'm interested to see where the report goes. And I don't think it's impossible that some other group is involved.
Right. Yeah, even if they did find out if there was another group involved, more than likely, even if it is BlackRock, more than likely they're not going to let us know. So we're never going to have literal proof available to just the general public about which, if there was another group involved in it, we're not going to know. They're not going to let us know. Especially if it was Democrats. Like, Democrats run social media.
I think that is
Go ahead.
maybe kind of a defeatist idea, or if you believe that, then it's difficult to ever have any understanding of the world, because you're just thinking, oh, they'll never let us know, we'll never understand. I don't see any reason to believe that whatever evil cabal may be out there, that they completely dominate all information. I guess if you think that, then there's kind of no hope of understanding the world generally. That's not really my opinion, though. I expect that we will come to understand who was responsible in the near-term future.
For sure. Yeah, I guess I don't have any proof besides just BlackRock owns the company that owns the building. That's the only proof, and it's a parent company, and I don't know if you know what a parent company is, but it's basically, and you know what that means, right? They, even though they only have a certain stake in it, they actually can still control the company. They still control.
Well, so Roper Technologies is the parent company of the company that owns the building, to my knowledge. And BlackRock has a 9% stake in Roper Technologies.
Yes.
But I just don't see how, BlackRock has a similarly sized stake in every big publicly traded company. So I don't see what it does for the conspiracy to say that, we own a 9% stake in the company that owns that warehouse. Okay, so an assassin could crawl on the roof of that building, whether they owned it or not.
Right. No, it's honestly, if the BlackRock commercial, if that kid wasn't in a commercial, this probably wouldn't even be a thing, honestly. It's just a crazy coincidence that this kid was in the commercial, which I know they don't hire their assassins from commercials, but it would look pretty crazy to label, a mentally unstable person with a gun as a Republican and have them shoot at Trump. It would just cause a lot of confusion especially to the Republican side.
Yeah, I agree.
If that was their goal, to confuse people.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for coming on. I appreciate the call.
All right, yeah, of course. Well, have a good one.
You too. All right. The subject of the live stream is, I think BlackRock was not involved with the Trump assassination. If you think differently, then please send me a guest request and we can discuss. Unbanned for All of Humanity says, been here for 40 minutes. All right. Accepted.
For fuck's sake. Sorry.
Hello.
My bad. That was coming in hot. God. I've been listening to this for a long time. So I disagree with you on a myriad of levels, but not on the BlackRock portion. And I just want to educate people on what BlackRock actually does, because people clearly don't understand what they do. They manage a total of $77 billion in assets. That's quantifiable and that's immutable fact. Currently, as of last month's SEC filing, okay? So when everybody talks about trillions, I need them to understand 100 billion goes into a trillion 10 times. And people don't understand, humans can't even quantify the number of billion in their brains. It's physically impossible. It's been proven. So just to lay that as the goddamn groundwork so we can all be on a baseline level of understanding who BlackRock actually is. They're an asset firm. They only manage $77 billion of actual assets. If you were worried about somebody taking him out, why not look at Berkshire Hathaway, where he owns 100% of all of his assets and is a trillionaire as far as the company is concerned. Berkshire Hathaway owns 100% of all of their assets they're invested in, and they are a far larger company than BlackRock is.
So I guess I agree with you that there are other suspects as plausible as BlackRock. And I agree with you that there's no evidence to implicate BlackRock. But why is it, like, if I just searched BlackRock assets under management, and I get a number that's like $10 trillion.
Yeah,
Which
that's under management. But what are their actual assets? Look up
I see. So, okay.
You get what I'm saying? Like what they actually have as far as their own power. They have $77 billion of power to throw around. They manage trillions of dollars of accounts, right? So that is where people, if they are concerned about BlackRock, look at the companies that are against Trump and his election, and stop talking about the war on Ukraine. It's Raytheon you need to think about that is partially owned by BlackRock, you know? Like they have a big stake in them. You need to look in Boeing. You need to look into the companies that make you can even look into the Minutemen missile systems.
Rather than looking at everyone who might plausibly have a motive, doesn't it seem like you should look at like the evidence? Yeah,
the evidence before me. Okay, so just to lay it out, like the BlackRock commercial clearly is just a mere coincidence. I truly believe that this was an individual that was bullied to the nth degree by Trumpers throughout his entire campaign in the youngest and most fervent portion of your life, which is high school adolescence, right? And then he found out that the same son of a bitch that's responsible for Red Pill, Sigma, all that bullshit nonsense that has plagued Gen Z and every generation past them is responsible. Like your David Goggins of the world, your Joe Rogans, all those people that conflate reality into a portion of, oh, this might be plausible. I liken it to much of the sense of when South Park made a mock of Ancient Aliens, if you're familiar, when they said there's nothing in the history books that says aliens weren't there, so that means that it's plausible that they could have been there. Because it wasn't written that they weren't there, then it's plausible they could have been there. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. I'm so tired of this nonsense. The biggest thing that stands out to me that makes me uncomfortable about the circumstances surrounding this alleged assassination attempt is, have we confirmed the style of rifle?
I don't know that.
Okay, I was just asking. I have heard from multiple sources that it was a 22 long rifle or an AR-15. Regardless, it's firing a 223 by 77 millimeter grain projectile. Okay, that fires consistently without a accurized rifle. Consistently, it fires between 2,600 and 2,800 feet per second, ballistically. So what doesn't add up to me is how we have a full photo video rendering of this bullet whizzing by his ear with a camera that doesn't have an ISO ability, period, unless it was a fucking slow motion camera that can capture that level of frame rate per second. Because people don't understand, from 400 feet, that's where the shooter fired from, 2,600 feet per second. That is how fast the bullet is traveling at the lower end, right? And we're gonna claim like his best friend Vince McMahon didn't train him on what happens when you get tackled. I know he went to the hospital and everything like that. So did JFK. JFK went to the hospital and they said one bullet took him out and went
Sorry, I think I'm losing the thread of the argument. I think I understood the part where you seem to be implying it's suspicious or strange that the photograph captured the bullet.
Well, my biggest thing is the ballistics part. I understand the exact rifle he fired, the Armalite 15. I know exactly which round he fired out of it based on what is alleged, right? Again, that's the creepy part. How can we not know exactly what firearm he fired and what type of projectile he fired already when we have an NBC special moment by moment?
Yeah, I think
on
that
Hulu
is
2 days later.
Yeah, I think like that is worth following up on or trying to understand. It doesn't strike me as evidence against anyone really, because like a photograph of a bullet would be completely unexpected.
I'm not worried about the photograph. I am worried about the reaction of the crowd. I am worried about the reaction of the myriad of views that have come out from TMZ of individuals telling people there is a man climbing onto that roof over and over again, and no one does anything about it. So this is Tradecraft 101. So in Tradecraft, I'm not going to disclose exactly who I am because that'll kind of screw up my life, I'm sure, with the people that really, really, really love Trump. But this is Tradecraft 101. I have direct connection to the DOD, Skunk Works, all those individuals that started those organizations like the NRO that escaped the Congress for 37 years. That was pretty funny. So the biggest thing is if the United States government decides, and when I say the United States government, I mean the 3-letter acronyms, right? The CIA, the National Reconnaissance Office, and the FBI. If they decide that it is not in the best interest of the United States for any candidate to be elected, they will eliminate them, just like they did with JFK. And again, that's up for discussion, but I don't believe in a magic bullet. It's been disproven multiple times. Ballistic experts across the world that have literally been given it as a blind study. That's one of my favorite studies. I can't tell you exactly the date that they did it. I believe it was in 2016 that they did a double-blind study on it.
Yeah, we don't have to go that far off the topic. I think so long as you agree that Blackrock is not involved in the Trump assassination, it sounds like you are suggesting there's maybe a cabal of intelligence agencies who are involved with it. I agree that there do seem to be Secret Service failures and that those should be investigated.
Correct. If there is a cabal, it would only be by the people that are actually not necessarily quote unquote running the country or the face of the country, so to speak, right? And the policymakers, obviously Congress, Senate, and the House does that. But as far as national security measures are concerned, there are 3 agencies that handle all of that. It's the NRO, the CIA, and the FBI. Plain and simple. And not a lot of people even know what the NRO is, but they have more jurisdiction than any other organization that the United States has ever had. And they subverted the US Congress from even being found out after their formation in 1957 until 1991. 37 years without oversight. The National Reconnaissance.
Like what are you saying the NRO is responsible, or what evidence would you have to say that they are responsible?
So my evidence would be based on the rifle that he fired. It was either a 5.56 by 77 grain or a 2.23 by 77 grain, which is a military issued round.
Okay, but surely everyone has access to 5.56 ammo.
By 77 grain? No, they do not. That's called a NATO round. They do not have access to that. A 2.23 by 77 grain, everyone does not have access to that round. They also don't have access to governor rounds, which are 30-06s, basically, but they're a larger powder in the actual It's basically a 45, but with a larger punch behind it, and it increases the velocity of the trajectory.
So are you saying, like if I understand you correctly, I just searched buy 7.7 grain NATO round 5.56.
Yep.
I am seeing results. Are you saying those are different, or that I couldn't buy those or something?
I'm saying you can buy them, but what I am saying is that is a very specific type of powder that you would put into a casing, and then you put that into the clip, and you put it into the gun, and you rack the round and fire it, right? Okay. How many shots did he get off? I know we were told 3, we were told 8, we were told 7, we were told 5, we were told 4. Do you know? Because I don't know at last check.
Yeah, I agree. It's between 3 and 8.
Oh, my bad. The magazine, guys. Chill. Everybody, relax. My bad. Relax. My great uncle was the Secretary of the Army for Eisenhower. There, I gave myself out. Go ahead and Google it. So anyways, he also created, yeah, this is so adorable. Anyways, that's where I come in.
Okay, so I guess I don't see how the ammunition type implicates the NRO.
Because of his distance. He was 400 feet away. That's traveling 2,600 feet per second. Okay? Okay. And you see the sniper come off glass, because he was looking probably 800 to 1,200 meters out. And the shooter was actually at 400 feet, which is less than 120 meters. So he had to come off glass and then split his wig, basically, with a direct headshot. And I agree with you on I don't know why the perimeter that was made for his campaign, that's in the middle of a goddamn field, that had 18 direct line of sight vantage points, and not a single person outside of for Secret Service. I believe this is a tertiary failure, because they have 3 degrees. So they have their CRP team, quick response team, that they were the people that took the.
I guess at this point, I feel like I'm satisfied that we're both in agreement. Blackrock probably not involved.
100%.
I got you. Yeah, I've got other people in the guest queue, so 100%. I'm going to go ahead and rotate those on.
I appreciate you. You're a legend. God bless you.
You. Period. Thank you. Have a nice day. I appreciate you coming up to share your perspective.
Amen.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye. All right. So I think BlackRock was not involved with the Trump assassination. Our previous guest was in agreement about that and had some thoughts that, he was suggesting maybe the NRO is implicated. And we were discussing the evidence for that. Our next caller, MLB.
Hello. Hi.
Welcome.
Hi. First of all, I liked your last guest. He was well informed and he was smart, and he came from the Eisenhower, and my extended family is the Bush family.
Okay.
So we have in our whole family and in my side, let's see, 3 former presidents and 3 former governors in our family is what we've got. And he sounded dead on. I think it was the Secret Service, but being pushed. First of all, the head of the Secret Service now used to be Jill Biden's Secret Service agent, which I thought was kind of strange. They switched out the Secret Service from the really experienced ones to be there. And they brought in ones, if you saw that woman trying to pull the gun from her holster, that was like 2 minutes, 1.5 minutes. That was outrageous. And then when she spoke, she said, we don't want to put our people in danger on a slanted roof. That's the most outrageous thing I've ever heard. But I had a question for you, a genuine question.
Go on.
And it's this. Why was on the day before the assassination attempt, why did Austin Private Wealth short Truth Social for $12 million?
Yeah, that is a good question. I believe in their 13F filing.
I'm asking you, because I'm curious what you're thinking on that.
Yeah, so I believe they did not do that. In their 13F filing, they report a short position of 12 million shares against Trump Media Group or Trump Truth Social. They later said that it was a filing error. So the claim is that they had an incorrect filing with the SEC and that they never actually had those options contracts, that they had never purchased them. And I think it's worth checking to make sure that they never actually had those options contracts. But if they never actually had that position, then I'd be willing to accept it was a filing error.
Right. So who, people like Larry Fink and those kind of people, but who has to gain by Trump dying? It's certainly not his crazy, whatever, redneck Trump fans like myself. What do we have to gain? I don't need anything from him. I like him.
Yeah.
I know Trump. I like him. I support him. But I don't need anything from him. What did they
I guess
have
you're
to
off
gain?
the suspect list.
What?
I said, I suppose you are off the suspect list.
Well, yeah. But what did they have to gain? They wanted to get, because he's their biggest threat. They don't want to lose the power and be exposed.
Trump is BlackRock's biggest threat?
No, the Democrats.
I see.
Yeah, they're not going to, he has beat him. I don't know if I agree with everything on that. But that's who do you have next? Kamala Harris is the greatest insurance policy for Joe Biden.
So you're implying that the Democrats or Joe Biden are responsible for the assassination attempt?
I don't think he's smart enough. I don't think he knows what he's doing. I know that he's very sick. I have a sister that's a psychiatrist. I can't even go into what I know. They live in Malibu and treat a member of the first family. Okay.
Okay. So whoever is in charge of the Democrats is behind it.
There's a lot of people that are behind it. We know who they are. Don't we? Don't we all know the Soros family, the Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Susan Rice, Valerie Jarrett? Aren't they the shadow government? Ron Klain? I know the Emanuel brothers very well. I'm telling you, you guys, it's dangerous. They're dangerous folks.
I see. You're very well connected.
Yes, I am. I grew up in Bel Air and Beverly Hills, and Ari Emanuel I've known forever, and his brother is Rom, and his other brother Ezekiel, and my sister dated the Emanuels for years. One of the Emanuels.
So who do you think is responsible? Who is a specific person?
I think it is the people that have worked to get Trump out of office so he can't expose everybody.
I see. And
I'm not saying by any chance that he's a saint. I know Donald Trump, and people were talking about, the media, this or that or whatever. My former brother-in-law, because he has passed away, but he was the CEO of NBC.
So, what evidence do you have that these people were behind the assassination attempt?
Oh, I just think that's where their interest is. I think that's where they don't care about anybody. They don't care about their own citizens. Look, we're taking better care of people coming across the border illegally. I respect if people need to come for help for persecution or whatever, than we are our own vets. We're funding both sides of the Israel-Palestine conflict. We are. What
is the evidence that whoever exactly you're suggesting is behind the assassination attempt?
No, I just know what's going on. I hear when you live in a family surrounded by people like that,
I see.
It's like I'm not sitting in some creepy little apartment somewhere not knowing anybody or anything.
So
it's common knowledge. Among people that are really involved. I've been involved in politics since I was, for 50 years.
So I assume you agree that most people are not as well connected as you are.
Yes.
So how would a person who is not as well connected as you are know the things that you know?
Do your homework. Follow the right people. Whoever Hollywood tells you to vote for the opposite, because they're about to.
Yeah. How would you know? I don't have anywhere near the connections that you have. So how would I know that the people you claim are implicated in the Trump assassination?
Well, you're going to find out. That's all part of the plan. That's what this is all about. Now, what was the last song that Trump played?
I don't know.
What was the last song you played at the last day of the convention? What movie did it come from, and what was that movie about?
I don't know.
It was opera by Pavarotti, right? It was an opera song by Pavarotti, right? And what it was about people that were near and dear and close in the inside of the president that assassinated him, that tried to assassinate him. And before they could assassinate him,
But like what?
he killed them all for treason. And that was the last song he played at his convention.
But how is that evidence?
No, it doesn't have to be, because I know the people.
Well, you knowing the people is persuasive to you, but it's not persuasive to anyone.
I don't have to convince you, but I was asking you what you thought on the. That's why I got into it. I know for a fact what's going on. I know for a fact. This has all been planned out, down to the music.
Well, I guess to me it seems like what's happening is there was a Secret Service failure plus a lone gunman who got off a shot or shots.
Okay, so why did that? If he was just a lone gunman that was sad and bullied, why did he have 4 encrypted accounts with Iran?
I don't know the answer to that.
Well, why don't you find out? And where does that go back to? What former president does they go back to? Find it out.
What former president?
Yeah.
I assume multiple former presidents have connections to Iran.
These particular accounts. Who loves Iran? Who's Muslim? Who's the Muslim former president that loves Iran?
Are you suggesting Barack Obama?
That's exactly what I'm suggesting, sir. Do your homework. Get on there. You can find it.
All right. What website would you recommend I use?
Well, I do. I mean, I do it all day long. I do it 9 hours a day. So I would just start, listening to other things, researching everybody, watching all news networks. MSNBC's a joke. It used to be good when my brother-in-law was the CEO. He was the best of the best. But that's when news mattered and they were honest. Now it's just a joke. I mean, we know that Anderson Cooper is former CIA, right? And the Operation Mockingbird. And when he spent his time at the CIA, his whole thesis and projection was to come out and feed information to the people that wasn't true.
I'm curious, if you could, you don't have to do this for me, but if you could, I don't know, if you could do it for me, or if you could just do it for yourself, if you could write out maybe 3 specific predictions that you think are going to happen in the next year or couple of years.
Oh, they're going to happen in the next few weeks.
Okay, well, that's even better. If you could write out specific predictions, then I think in the next couple of weeks, we'll be able to see whether, or we'll be able to see.
Sure, I just fell upon you today. I've never seen you before.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, what is your name? So I can message you at some point.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you can just direct message me on TikTok. I don't like to share my personal
What's the last part? I'm seeing THOU. I'm a little bit older.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. It's my name is Quick Thoughts on here, or it's I think so, LTHLNKSO. That's my username. But you can just direct message me after you're off the live. You can just click my icon and direct message me. And if you want to just spell out a couple specific predictions.
My daughter when she comes home for work, but I will make the predictions, and you're going to find out it's all been in play.
Okay,
and look
I
up
will
the song and
appreciate that.
listen to the song.
I will appreciate that. And just one thing I'd ask you is, suppose you make these predictions and they don't come true. How would that make you feel?
No one gets hurt, do they?
No.
I'm already prepared. I've got the radiation medicine. I've got everything. I've got all that.
I'm just saying, I guess what I think is, suppose I have a specific theory of the world and I predict some outcome. And then if that outcome does not come to pass, I will think that my theory of the world is misinformed or has misled me.
No, maybe you just went down a wrong path, but that's how we go down dead ends, and then we look other places, right? That's the whole process. That's why we're here.
Maybe. I might also say that you should question the method you're using rather than just try to, reverse and repeat and look down a different path. I might also say that maybe just the method of searching.
I don't need to reverse what I'm a part of making.
Okay, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, suppose you make a prediction and that prediction does not come true.
But it's
How will
not
that?
a prediction. It's already laid out, sir.
Okay. So say you write down this thing that's already laid out and you send it to me in a message so we both have a record of it. And then a couple weeks pass and it doesn't happen. How will that make you feel?
With the consequences of what it's going to bring about, a little bit bummed out. But it's really interesting. There's this woman on here that's so obsessed with Fani Willis, and we're going to take Trump to all the court things. I told them from the get-go it was all a setup. The whole thing was set up.
I'll just try one more time. I mean, like,
well, I'm
what
telling you. So she kept saying, how do you know you're going to be wrong? You're going to be wrong. She opened a shop selling things. I said, she's going to be taken down by an affair. She's going to be taken down by a affair that had. How do I know those things, guys?
Okay.
And then she didn't apologize to me. Thank God. Like, just.
Yeah. Like, I guess what I mean is if you make predictions and they don't come true,
well,
what
I'm
I
not
would.
hurting anybody, but I haven't.
No, I'm not like scolding you for making predictions that don't come true. I'm saying if you make a prediction and it doesn't come true, I would kind of hope that you reevaluate your method of arriving at these conclusions.
Right, but I have yet to fail.
Okay, well, I mean, yeah, definitely send me the predictions. And like what I can say conversely is if you send me the predictions and they do come true, then, I will come to know that you have a reliable method of understanding.
I know some really fucking people that run the world, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And that will be a very valuable and important thing for me to know. But likewise, if your predictions do not come true, I would think perhaps you would then learn that your method of understanding or predicting the world is maybe not as powerful as it might seem at the moment. Does that make sense?
Right. I'm 60 years old and I haven't been wrong yet.
Okay, well then I look forward to hearing your predictions.
I started in politics at age 9. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. So I just wanted to see what you thought on the thing and just, we'll see.
Yeah,
I know it's coming. It's coming fast too. And
Okay.
Biden will not be in the race.
I appreciate you telling me that. And yeah, I look forward to you sending those predictions. And thank you for coming up and sharing your perspective.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Take care.
Yep, thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye. All right. Good call. Interesting call. The topic is, I think BlackRock was not involved with the Trump assassination attempt. Our previous caller mentioned that she was connected to a number of influential and powerful people, and that she believed the Democrats were responsible. And she's going to follow up with me by sending me 3 specific predictions so that we'll know whose method of understanding or predicting the future is more reliable. Our next caller. Hello. I think BlackRock was not involved with the Trump assassination. Do you think differently?
I also do not think BlackRock was involved. I'm just more curious what you think the motivation for Thomas Crooks was for trying to shoot Trump in the head.
I think the best motivation that I've heard so far was just that he wanted the notoriety of it.
Yeah.
Like some people will be mass shooters sometimes, or serial killers or whatever. Like sometimes people do depraved things, not necessarily for political reasons, but just because they are depraved people.
Right. Like 5 minutes ago, actually, I looked on a article from the Hill, and they talked about how the FBI thought that he worked alone, and which I think is probably plausible, and that they are unsure of his motivation.
Yeah.
I think like him wanting notoriety is like best case scenario for like, I guess, our political turmoil, because if it turns out as like a Democrat or a government agency, that would spark something.
Yeah, like that is probably best case for us. It would be very bad to learn it was a government agency. Well, sorry, it would be very bad if it was a government agency. It would be good to learn it if it so yeah, I agree. I think, depraved lone shooter is the most plausible theory. I think it should definitely be investigated. I think the Secret Service failures are like suspicious, for lack of a better word. I understand why people are really skeptical of this, because the Secret Service really does seem to have dropped the ball. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I also saw a video of a different point of view from of what happened at the Pennsylvania rally, and it was a Secret Service sniper just aiming down at the gunman until the gunman took a shot, which is questionable.
Yeah, that does seem very odd. I think that, like, the sniper who wound up taking the shot, or at least who's on the roof, maybe he didn't take the shot, whatever, that sniper, I would definitely like to hear from him and have him explain his thought process.
Yeah, because I don't think he's made any statement either, or any Secret Service member at
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, well, it sounds like we don't really disagree here, so I'm going to cycle on to the next person, but thank you for coming up to...
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good call, good call. Our next person, Emperor Andrew. Thank you for the roses also. I appreciate it. Hello, I think Blackrock was not involved with the Trump assassination. Do you think differently?
Well, I have a question about your premise.
Okay.
Like, I understand that maybe Blackrock was or was not specifically involved in, like, is that what you're getting at? Because if you're getting at it was just definitely maybe probably not Blackrock, that is one thing entirely, and I don't know if I know who is responsible for whether or not this happened. I agree with it could very likely be a lone person acting, you know, on his own volition. It could very well be. But the real question to me is the circumstances in which, like you were just pointing out, it's very suspicious circumstances all the way around. And the question then becomes, are the people at the top a single unified entity? Like, would only one group benefit from such activity? So just the idea that it was perhaps potentially lax in, like, the security was allowed to be more lax. Is it being allowed to be lax at all of the events? These are questions that I don't really have the answer to, but I think are very telling in the overall environment.
Yeah, I agree. Those are good questions to ask. Like, if Trump's security is normally super rigorous, you know, at every other event, and then just like a weird lapse here, that's suspicious. And that's something I hope to see in the upcoming report, you know, the investigation on this event, which I assume is forthcoming from, like, the FBI. Yeah. So that's a very good question. Earlier you were saying, like, do I think Blackrock is definitely, certainly not, whatever. It's more the case that I think there's no evidence to implicate Blackrock. So just like I would say, you know, if asked, did you participate in the assassination? I would say no. I mean, it's not technically impossible that you did, but I just have no reason to think you did. And likewise, I have no reason to think Blackrock was involved.
Right. They just find it suspicious because he was in that commercial. And, you know, people love to run to conclusions before they have any actual information. So suddenly it goes from one thing to the next thing. One thing that I found weird was that the guy, you remember the kid from CNN who was smirking at the guy, and like they harangued that kid quite hard. I forget his name. Shepard, I think.
Catholic kids? Is that who you're talking about?
The ones who were at that event, and the Native American gentleman was...
Yeah, Covington Catholic High School. Is that...
Okay, yeah, thank you. I forgot the... But yes, that. And like that guy was in a Skrillex video. The guy that they were smirking at was in a Skrillex video. So it just feels weird when people turn up in places you wouldn't expect them, and then again somewhere else.
Yeah, I agree. It's unusual to be in a commercial, but like, to the people who point to the commercial, I would just say, you know, I doubt Blackrock wants an assassin and they go, you know, give me the extra who played high school kid number 3 on our commercial.
But they could potentially influence the environment in which security is being laxened for a lot of reasons. You know, like they could influence that in some way or another, right? Do you disagree that they have the ability to do that?
Like, in principle, they could. I mean, they're very rich, so they could use money to influence that. I don't know if there's like a specific mechanism that we think, you know, that we could actually point to say, here's how Blackrock influenced Secret Service.
And the kind of the way I see the world when you look at things like this is nefarious circumstances exist, and therefore you must treat all circumstances as if they could potentially be nefarious. I'm not saying that you have to like assume that they all are, but you have to consider the possibility that they may in fact be nefarious in the first place. Like, you can't go through things being like, there's a 90% chance that everything's going to go swimmingly, but there's a 10% chance that it's not, and then you just don't act like that 10% chance is a possibility. You know, it's called being prepared, malcontent.
Yeah.
But
So I think, like, so long as we're in agreement that there's not specific evidence against BlackRock, one, and then two, that the investigators should follow whatever evidence there is to whatever conclusion it leads to, then it sounds like we're in agreement. Because, I agree, like, investigators should not look away if evidence comes up that implicates BlackRock or the Democrats or whoever. Investigators should see what the evidence is and follow it to its conclusions.
Well, I just want to say thank you very much for having me up. I really like and appreciate your content. I hope you have a great day, and I look forward to maybe speaking to you again sometime.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I look forward to speaking with you again as well. Good call. Good call. Our next guest, Patrick Englehart. I think BlackRock is not involved with the Trump assassination. Hello, I recognize your name as a friend of the channel.
Yeah, I just wanted to come on and say, you know, I really appreciate your content. I look forward to your videos every time I see them. I watch them all the way through. It's great stuff.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so so on this specific topic, I totally agree with you. So if you want to have someone else up, I totally do understand. I did, however, want to talk about Chevron deference, because that is one thing I think in which we disagree.
Okay.
So I guess just briefly, because I know you probably got other people you want to talk about this main topic. From my understanding, and correct me if I have this understanding wrong, is that your main argument against Chevron was that it would allow Congress to have some sort of stability in enforcing regulations because, number one, the interpretation of regulations wouldn't change between administrations as much, and number two, it would only apply to things specifically outlined by Congress, making the regulations clearer and more fair. Is that a fair categorization?
I guess I wouldn't say it quite like that. I would say that I think overturning Chevron deference is the right decision because I think judges should use the best interpretation of the law rather than defer to federal agencies, who I think often, I think a lot of people kind of mix up the fact that federal agencies have technical experts with the idea that technical expertise is needed to evaluate a legal decision. Like, you need legal expertise to evaluate the legal decision. So on the question of who should pay for fishing regulators, the EPA may have people who are experts at counting fish, but they don't have experts in interpreting what the law says about who should pay for counting fish. Does that make sense?
That does, and I do really understand that position. I guess I only come at it from this perspective, and again, this is from my understanding of Chevron, so correct me if I'm wrong. But Chevron would have also applied if, let's say, in the 1980s, the EPA says we're banning this chemical because we think it causes cancer. And then in the 2000s, a new chemical is discovered that also causes cancer, but that wasn't explicitly outlined by Congress as banned in the 1980 law. So then the EPA says, we're using the justification from the 1980 law to ban this chemical in 2000 because Congress is, let's be honest, kind of lazy and hasn't updated these laws to include this new chemical. So don't you think that from that perspective, having Chevron is a benefit?
So at least my understanding of this is that laws are not written by enumerating the number of things that are banned. And probably what they do, usually in my experience at least, is they would say something like, the EPA can regulate the amount of dangerous substances where a dangerous substance is a substance that does X, Y, or Z. And they would spell out a law like that. And so I think if the laws are spelled out like that, then it still gives, the EPA or whatever federal agency all the latitude they need to make the regulations. Like, nobody is saying that Congress has to write out a list of all the things that are banned. Congress is still 100% able and should tell an agency, make restrictions about the safety of substances and just leave it up to the agency. The issue is where it's ambiguous. So like there's nothing ambiguous about EPA, you say what a dangerous substance is and say how much can be in the water or whatever. There's nothing ambiguous about that. The EPA gets to say. Where it's ambiguous is if the law doesn't specify what should happen. So like the case of the fishing regulators, there's an edge case where it's not clear who has to pay, who has to pay for the fishing regulator. And like that's the kind of ambiguity that I think we should not defer to federal agencies about. I think we should use the best interpretation of the law in every circumstance.
I totally understand that. And I guess the only thing that I come away with from this whole conversation is the need to make sure that our congressional members really do write legislation with the understanding in mind that things change over time and that we do need adaptability and flexibility in our laws for changing circumstances. So I just hope we get some better representatives in there who take that into consideration in the future.
Yeah, I think we can both agree on that. And, you know, if you want to like write me by DM, you know, I remember your comment as being maybe upset is overstating it, but like maybe disagreeing about my position on Chevron deference. So if you ever want to write about it, I'm more than happy to do that. But yeah, you're right that in this live, I guess, you know, I'm kind of trying to focus on Blackrock not being involved with the Trump assassination. So if you want to follow
totally understand, man. Yeah, totally understand. Well, thanks for having me up, and love your content as always. Have a great day.
No, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate the conversation. Good call, good call. Our next guest. Let's see, I think Blackrock was not involved with the Trump assassination. If you think differently, I'd love to hear why.
Whether they were or they weren't is, to me, is irrelevant because the tentacles are so widespread. There will never be enough information to determine whether or not they were involved. I only jumped on very briefly to go back to the other woman who you had as a caller who had a lot of influence with high-powered people. You had asked her to provide you with some information that you could use to go to where she was going with her conversation with you. And I have just two. And if you want to, and then I'll jump off this call because I'm sure you can get to better people who could speak more efficiently. So the Smith-Mundt Act of 1948, M-U-N-D-T, Smith-Mundt Act of 1948. Okay, it is involved with the CIA's dissemination of information when it comes to international, spying and so forth. Well, in 2012, Obama changed the act to the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act. And within the confines of that, it now allows the mainstream media to filter out what the CIA and FBI want the people to know. So if they can basically have carte blanche to propaganda. Okay? So that's where you need to start with when things started to change in this country. And that's when the media changed its core competency to just basically popping out propaganda. And they were being directed by our government, CIA specifically.
So if I understand you, you're saying the Smith-Mundt Act instructs mainstream media to filter out information that the intelligence agencies don't want them to report on. Is that correct?
Or they want them to report on. Basically, it could be propaganda. A misdirection type reporting.
Okay. And I'm curious, did you have one other point or is this the main one?
No, that's it. And then that'll give you a good basis of where that other woman is getting all her information, how this is all starting.
I'm curious where you learned about this.
Well, I have a brother who's a historian, educator, and he understood the law very, very well, the Smith-Mundt law. And when Obama changed it in 2012, it opened up a can of worms that we have to try to get back in because it's not good.
So Obama changed the law. So in your view, problem started in 2012 or in 1948?
No, the 1948 was to protect our country with information not getting out to foreign countries. But he changed it where we can now, well, let's just put it this way. 1948, civilians were not involved with it. Information that, from counterintelligence, that stuff would never get filtered out to the citizens. Now, what Obama did in the Modernization Act is basically just said, let the CIA, the FBI, the NSA filter out what we want the country to think.
Okay.
Even if it's not true.
Like I'm trying to think of how to phrase this question. Like what, I almost want to say like evidence of this filtering what I see.
Well, basically within the law, you can read, and I don't have it up in front of me, but you can basically read what 1948 meant and what the 2012 modernization of the Smith-Mundt Act means. And it basically goes right into saying that it allows the media to accept information from our intelligence organization that can now be filtered out to the American people, whether that information is true or false. So if it's false, it's propaganda.
I guess I mean, like, if there was a law that said, cars have to have lap seatbelts, then I would expect to see more lap seatbelts in cars over time. Is there anything like that that you can think of that would apply with this law, in the sense that we could say, whatever evidence or like clue or whatever you want to think about it would become more frequent after 2012?
Okay, I can give you right now with the Donald Trump situation. Okay? Russia collusion. The entire part of his first administration was bogged down with the impeachment because of the Russia collusion. Upon him leaving the presidency, the FBI finally came clean that information, the dossier, was all fake. It was false information.
Which you attribute to the Smith-Mundt Act.
I'm sorry?
I said, which you attribute to the Smith-Mundt.
Correct, because the media was able to continue to propagate that information to the American people, basically saying, the FBI is telling us this is true, this is true, this is true. That's getting filtered out to the American people. That propaganda is hurting the character of a president. And there you have it. You know the history. And then when they come clean is when he's no longer in office.
Let me ask you, suppose someone made a legal challenge against the Steele dossier or tried to sue Hillary Clinton or something, whatever legal challenge that would be. Mm-hmm. Is there ever an instance where like a U.S. media organization said, like, look, we had to publish false information because of the Smith-Mundt Act? Like, has that ever happened?
Well, I think you might be able to look at what has been going on with the mainstream media and the exit of a lot of senior corporate officers, Weinstein, all Hollywood. Just look at Hollywood. Hollywood is the big propaganda. And that's in this, and we all know that many actors in Hollywood are CIA operatives. And so,
sorry. Let me interrupt you for a second. What I mean is consider the case of like the Dominion voting machines that Fox News claimed were rigged. And then someone sued Fox News over that, and Fox News had to pay a settlement. So I guess I would expect, if mainstream media organizations are publishing a lot of lies about the Steele dossier, I might expect that someone would bring a similar lawsuit against them, and that then those news organizations would say, no, we have to do this because of the Smith-Mundt Act or something like that.
Well,
what I'm trying to get at is
okay.
there like documentation that this act?
I cannot say for sure, but what I can say is that I can flip this in the perspective of you have to look at ratings. And Fox News' ratings was superseding all the networks combined, whether that's MSNBC, CNN, and the cable networks, okay? The main three. And collectively, they needed to try to do something to hurt the Murdochs. And so what do? They basically go out and say that the same thing with Alex Jones and the Sandy Hook situation. But, he's basically saying that there's really certain evidence that points to the fact that Sandy Hook may not have happened. But, I digress. But when I go to that is that these networks are competing for revenue shares, okay? And Fox News was really, really in control of that revenue share. So what do you do to bring down your competitor? You falsify information that they're involved with something that they told their audience a lie about the Dominion, but all they're doing is reporting. So
yeah, I guess like the kind of the thing I was trying to get to is looking for evidence that the Smith-Mundt Act has been used the way you were describing.
You're challenging me to come up with that information right here off the cuff. I cannot.
Yeah. I understand. It's a difficult thing to do.
What I'm saying is perhaps maybe if you continue to go down that rabbit hole, you may begin to see certain things, whether it's Hollywood, whether it's the mainstream media, television altogether. I always look at it this way. The black box, to me, television, they give it a name television because it's tell-a-vision. Tell a lie. If you want to tell a lie, you whatever you want to tell the people, you tell it.
Yeah, I mean, I will.
You'll learn about Operation Mockingbird. You'll learn about MK Ultra. These are things that the CIA have been actively involved with, and there's no more hiding it. It is all surfacing.
Yeah, like I will learn more about the Smith-Mundt Act.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious if you think it's possible for people to be kind of maybe like disconnected from reality and caught up in kind of conspiracy theory, like nonsense, for lack of a better word. Do you think that is possible?
You know where the conspiracy theories came from? When John F. Kennedy was assassinated. Okay? Now, why weren't those records released? The commission said in 1979 that they would be released 50 years from the date of his assassination. Well, 50 years have come and gone, but the FBI and CIA are not releasing those documents. Why? Most of the actors in the assassination are gone. There's evidence now that the Zapruder film was altered. There's, so there's just a lot of things. But when the universe of people who were actively involved with these events start to pass away, that information goes with them. And so as we move further away in history, that information disappears. And
sorry, let me interrupt you 1 second. I just started a poll, or I started it a few minutes ago. People in the chat
Hello?
can vote on the left-hand side whether you think a lone gunman plus Secret Service failure is the most likely cause. You would vote yes, and otherwise you would vote no. You've got about 2 minutes left, so vote now. But back to you, guest. What I would say is, do you think it's possible that people get, like, I hear what you were saying, but do you think it's possible that people get caught up in conspiracy theorizing and become kind of disconnected from the real world? Like, do you think that's possible? Do you think that's something that happens?
Conspiracy, someone could say what I'm saying right now is a conspiracy, but the fact of the matter is that there's certain information there. I'm not the type of person that could debate that, but all I know is that when I started researching it, based on what my brother suggested, I started to see certain things, and certain things started to connect where at one time I would have agreed with you in the term conspiracy, that these people were way out there. But now, when you look at what's going on today, no, I don't agree. I think that there's a lot of things that they're telling us that we're
I'm not asking about you specifically. I'm asking, like, do you think that other people could be caught up in conspiracy theories?
Oh, absolutely, sure. But that seed of doubt, what does the seed of doubt do? It creates the division amongst the people. I say it happened, you say it didn't. I say it's a conspiracy theory, you say it's not. That's a division. That's what they want. They want us divided. And the bottom line is that is a fact.
Well,
But
like,
then
how would you know, how would you tell if someone else was caught up in a conspiracy theory?
Well, I'll probably be honest with you. I would think because I don't believe it.
Yeah.
I don't believe it.
I think there's probably a difference between not believing what someone says and thinking that maybe they're using like bad sources or bad methods or something.
But I'm talking as if I'm the average person out there in our population. I don't believe it, and therefore it's not true. And I'll use a perfect example. Project 2025. Look at where it was originated. Mark Elias is the author of Project 25. Mark Elias is the Democratic operative that was actively involved with the Russia collusion. And go through it in the Democracy Forward. That's the organization, Democracy Forward. And it was written 15 years ago. And what they did now is they worked with the Heritage Group to stamp it and put it on the Republican platform.
So do you think Project 2025 is kind of like making the Republicans look bad?
Yes.
I see. So it's kind of like a, I don't want to say maybe deep state or like something like that plot.
Heritage Foundation is no different, absolutely no different than the Lincoln Project.
Okay, I need to get going soon, or
that's fine.
Right now. But one thing I want to ask you is similar to what I asked the previous woman who was on. Was, can you make like a specific prediction about the world? Like she said, she could make specific predictions that would come true in the next couple of weeks. You don't have to be that.
It brings. I'm in finance. And what I do is I'm part of the peer-to-peer encryption technology where the banks are moving in. I was involved in like setting up websites for online bill pay and so forth. And what I do know is that there is an overhaul happening right now. And that overhaul is going to change the way we do our banking. And it's going to privatize our monies. Everything's going to be wallet-based, and that information is secured. I'm jumping off the topic here, but I'm going to ask you to do one more thing. It just crossed my mind.
Okay.
Look up the Act of 1871.
Okay. What is that?
The Act of 1871 is when the United States became a corporation. And we entered into what is called maritime law. Our Constitution is not maritime law. It's common law. It's sovereignty law. And so think about when the birth certificate originated. Think about the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. Go back to all of that. That's going to help you understand where we came up with the fiat money system, where we print money and all it is, it's backed by debt. We learn about the quantitative easement, how our country got to where we are today. Who is putting us into debt and why? You got to ask yourself this question. Who is our government beholden to? Let's face it, they go in making $100,000 a year in salary. They're there for 50 years and they're multimillionaires. How?
Yeah. So yeah. Do you have like specific predictions that you could make? I just want to return to that point.
Okay. Yeah. No, I can't. Yes, I will say that the dollar's going to fail. The dollar's going to fail. Wall Street's is going to crumble, and our dollar is just going to have absolutely no value. And at that point, we will introduce the gold-backed dollar. We will return back to, the United States will return back to the gold-backed or precious metal dollar, where it's backed by assets.
That's an excellent prediction to make. It's very specific and falsifiable. Do you know like when that will happen, or when is the latest you would expect it to happen?
Well, the minute we left the dollar was no longer used for petrol. It's no longer the petrodollar. Our dollar is no longer. So all the other countries like the Chinese yuan, the Russian ruble, their money is now all backed by gold. Okay. So once that happened on June 9th, the clock started to tick. Our dollar is on a regular basis losing its value, and it's going to continue. So I predict by the year 2026, first quarter, our dollar is going to disappear.
Okay.
No one's going to want our dollar.
That is a specific prediction. I think I might disagree with a couple of the things you said about our dollar losing purchasing power. I don't believe that's true relative to other currencies. And I don't believe that all those other currencies you listed are gold-backed. But I appreciate you making a specific prediction. And I would ask you, like, suppose that 2026 rolls around and the U.S. dollar is still fine and still normal. Would you then say, like, maybe I'm doing something wrong with how I think about the world?
I am a survivor of 9/11. I was in the South Tower. I lost 7 friends. And since that time, I know what I saw. And I'm telling you right now, those towers were imploded. There's no question about it. And no one's going to change my mind because I stood there and I watched my friends get crumbled down on. And so it's very painful for me even to this day. So since then, I have always questioned our government. I never put faith in our government. And I do know that we truly are not operating, our justice system is not operating on common law. It's operating on maritime law. And the distinctions are very clear.
Okay, so let me go back to
So the money business, when does that happen? I don't know. I could be dead before it does. But eventually our country's currency is going to be devalued. It's
like the thing I'm trying to get at is, like, you can tell how good theories are by the predictions they make and whether those predictions come true. And I don't mean to be rude, but listening to you, it seems like your theories are probably, my intuition is that your theories are probably not very good from a predictive standpoint. I would expect that your predictions would be wrong, I'm trying to say.
Okay, so and that's fair for you to say it. Okay. That's why I'm saying
if you wanted to make some bet, like the US dollar will still have value in 2026, I'd be willing to make that bet with you. And we could make it in US dollars, which would be valueless. So you can give me all of your US dollars in 2026. Would you make that bet?
All my US dollars.
Yeah, you give me all your US dollars.
I don't have 2 nickels to rub together. I'm a semi-retired person here living alone. And, I'm just getting by on the system. So you can't take anything from nothing. I have nothing. So I can't make that kind of a bet. Okay. I can tell you right now,
I'm not exactly trying to make a bet with you. I'm just trying to illustrate that a good theory would give you predictions about the world, and you would have confidence in those predictions as well. And a bad theory would kind of mislead you into thinking you understand the world when you actually don't. And you're spending a lot of time researching things that may be complex, but are not revealing to the actual state of the world.
Well, all I know is what I do for a living, and what I do for a living is that the banks are going through some very major overhauls with their systems, their ledger systems, all of that. And
but I don't think it goes to anything.
Well, it goes to what we have in conversation with colleagues and people with much more expertise than myself. I'm low person on the totem pole, and they're all speculating. And I'll use that word speculating because, again, I can't be sure that they're telling me the truth. They're speculating that our dollar is going to crash. It's going to disappear. Okay. And that happened when the contract for the petrodollar went away.
So, like, if you thought that the dollar was going to disappear, and I don't mean you specifically, I just mean like generally a person, then you could take out large loans denominated in US dollars and trade them for things like precious metals or foreign currencies.
Yep.
And if that were happening, if rich people were doing that, then
They
we would
are.
expect, well, hang on, then we would expect to see the US dollar weaken against a basket of currencies. So do we see that happening?
I do know that there are many people that are investing in the Iraqi dinar. There's a lot of people who are taking possession of gold and silver. The speculators, basic speculators of precious metals are saying that gold and silver are both very much undervalued.
Well, speculators are saying that?
Yeah. So, I mean, again, I'm only just giving you what I hear. So
Yeah,
I may
mean,
not
like,
sound like I don't understand everything, which I can honestly say I don't. But
yeah,
what I am
didn't-
telling
I didn't
you
mean that in
is
a
that
rude way, and I apologize if it came off that way. It's
no,
just,
no. It's fine, because this is what I'm trying to explain to you. I'm one of many, and I mean many, that think the same way. And so my point is, while this is happening and the truth that doesn't come to the surface, we're going to continue to divide in this country to the point where I'm afraid of something very major happening in this country.
okay, well, I'll just close on what I think is that if the US dollar were going to zero, then people who knew about it would panic sell US dollars, basically, on foreign currency exchange markets.
Well, I do know
Don't
that
think
BlackRock is dumping the dollar right now.
No,
I
like
do know that
the dollar is
Japan just also dumped the dollar. They did I don't know, about 200 million they dumped in US dollars.
So, like, if I were to look up the exchange rate between the US dollar and the Japanese yen, do you think I would see what?
Well, the Japanese just issued their new currency a couple of weeks ago. I don't know what it's valued at. I haven't looked at it lately.
Well, they issued new bills, I think you mean.
Yes,
But they
yes.
still use the yen. So I'm looking at
That's
a
what I
one-year
meant. They used the yen.
Yeah, I'm looking at a 1-year timeline. Sorry, I meant, like, what direction would you expect the exchange rate to go?
I can't say. I don't have that information.
Yeah, it seems like if people thought the US dollar was going to zero, they would be using US dollars to buy Japanese yen. And so then we would expect that Japanese yen would cost more and more US dollars over time. So we would expect the exchange rate to go down, right?
Correct.
And yet, if you look up the exchange rate, it's going up. So that's like the opposite of what you expect.
The other day, in a very well coordinated, intentional.
All I know is that they dumped some of our U.S. dollars, and that was in
Well, what do you mean by they dumped? What do you mean by
the U.S.
they
Treasury
dumped?
notes. They dumped it. They basically said, we don't want we don't want the money. We don't want the U.S. money anymore.
I doubt that. They may have sold them.
Yeah, back to us.
Well, I think they probably would have sold them on the open market.
Well, I mean, I don't have accessibility. I'm sure you could probably just pop in the number, an inquiry in Google, and it'll tell you what they did, when they did it, and for how much, and how they, if it was in the open market or not.
Okay, so Japan dumps US dollar. What should I search for? Japan dumps 63 billion worth of US bonds, US and European sovereign bonds. Like, usually dump means that they sell them.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's
whether they did it in the
lining
open market, I don't know.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, the fact that it has a buyer kind of implies that it's not the case that everyone thinks US dollars are worthless. And the fact that the US dollar is buying more and more Japanese yen over time implies that, like, on aggregate, the market thinks that the dollar is
better. Yep,
strong
you're right.
or
You're absolutely right.
Okay. Well, good. I think this is going to be our last call. So thank you for everyone watching.
Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't mean it to go this long. I just wanted to provide you about the Smith Month Act.
I understand, and I appreciate you, coming up to make that point. And I apologize to the people in the guest queue. I should have warned you that I wasn't going to take any more callers. But,
and I apologize too. Bye.
Yep. Thank you. I appreciate you joining. So thank you, everybody, and thank you for the gifts. I appreciate it. I think we had a good conversation. So.